Hi friends, you're on the Melonfonk channel. In this video, we're going to find out which game is better, Melon Playground or Fruit Playground. But before we start, I want to say a huge thank you to these guys for participating in my video. If you want to be in my next video, you need to do a few things. Leave a like. Write your best comment, at least 4 words or more. And don't forget to watch this video from start to finish. It's very easy to fulfill all these conditions. Enjoy watching! So, dear friends, in this video, we will find out which game is better, Melon Playground or Fruit Playground. I think it's obvious to everyone that Fruit Playground is Melon Playground's closest competitor in the sandbox genre. Firstly, because it is the best port of People Playground, besides Melon Playground, on Android. And in general, Melon Playground has virtually no competitors in its genre. Even in comparison to People Playground, I think it's not clear which of these games is still the best, despite the fact that Melon Playground is an Android game. To start off, we're going to talk about the rating system. We're going to have 8 criteria. To each criterion, we will award a certain score. Thus, the maximum score is 24. Whoever scores more points is essentially the best game. Today, we will evaluate graphics, physics, optimization, mechanics, mechanisms, sound design, atmosphere, and content diversity. Let's wish good luck to our participants, and now let's get to the direct comparison. Melon Playground is a game where you can experiment with different items and characters in an open world. At the center of all these experiments is Melon, a character who usually becomes the main victim of your actions. There is no clear goal or plot in the game, which allows you to do whatever you want. Fruit Playground is another sandbox, but with a slightly different approach. Everything is built around fruits that have somehow evolved into humans. Graphics. This is what we pay attention to first and foremost. And here Melon Playground clearly wins with a score of 3 out of 3. Melon Playground has never had any problems with visuals. Always clear shadows, beautiful textures, and the game in general looks very beautiful, even when you enter the menu. I think it's obvious that Melon Playground wins here, especially in its genre. As for Fruit Playground, it is inferior without any question. Watching Fruit Playground makes you want to cry a little bit. Everything looks much simpler, and I'd say much simpler. The graphics clearly leave a lot to be desired. For some reason, looking at those textures, it feels like they're flat. There is no immersion in the atmosphere of the game. All textures as if just the most ordinary and in different styles, as if downloaded from the first hit site. And the pixelation of these textures. While in Melon Playground, the pixels look organic, here they are just bad textures. For graphics, I give Fruit Playground 1 point out of 3 possible, of course. Leave your opinion in the comments, of course. And now let's move on to the next evaluation criterion, physics. As for physics, Melon Playground wins here too, in my opinion, getting the highest possible score 3 out of 3. I think everyone will agree with me. The physics in Melon Playground is just great. It really looks as if it were realistic. Whereas in Fruit Playground, the physics are a bit inferior. Nevertheless, I'll still give it a 2, it's not that bad, but it's still less developed. All the objects feel like rubber, you just have to feel it yourself. The physics of falling, taking off, explosions, it's all a bit strange. It lacks naturalness. That's why the score is only 2 out of 3, but it's not all that bad. Optimization. Now let's talk about optimization. The winner here is obvious, and it goes to Fruit Playground. I give it 2 points. The optimization of this game feels on the level. Everything feels like it lags, but it doesn't. All in all, maybe it's just a feature of the game that doesn't have a very positive effect on its feel, of course. But if we talk about Melon Playground, the situation here is much worse. Of course, FPS in the menu or in the game itself is much higher, but as soon as you start interacting with the world, I think those who played Melon Playground will understand me. It's constant crashing, loading, and of course lags with ropes and mechanisms that don't lock on in any way. It is in fact annoying. Optimization is the Achilles heel of Melon Playground. Here I give it 1 point out of 3, and that's with a stretch, because I would have given it a 0. But still, let's discount the huge number of items and complex physics in the game. I think that's where the problem lies. However, despite all this, Fruit Playground's optimization still wins, albeit with some minor issues. Mechanics. Melon Playground has no problem with mechanics at all, a huge variety of mechanics that just blow your mind. From seeds to the acid map, where absolutely everything dissolves, and a lot of different items and really cool mechanics that someone thought of to implement. The game allows us to do absolutely anything: destroy objects, run experiments, and interact with the world in many different ways. Fruit Playground is also quite good in this respect. There are a lot of mechanics here too. However, I give it only 2 points because it certainly doesn't reach Melon Playground. The mechanics are less varied and more banal, but still the game provides a lot of options for creativity. Mechanisms. As for the mechanisms, I give both games 2 points. Of course, there is a lack of variety. Melon Playground promises to fix all this, but both games are fine and there is room for growth. Going deeper, Melon Playground is still a bit more enjoyable in this regard. But again, that's if you really go deep and pick on it. Overall, the games are pretty equal in these respects, except for the ropes, of course. I think the ropes are not a mechanic after all, for which Melon Playground has already gotten its rightful mark. In the meantime, we're waiting for improvements to the visuals so that Melon Playground can get the maximum score for mechanics. Now let's move on to the next criterion: sound design. Sound design is the next criterion. Here, Melon Playground deservedly gets 3 points. Without any competition at all, the sound effects in Melon Playground are just perfect. Each sound corresponds to its own character. The cool ambient in the background and the music at the beginning of the game are all very organic. Nothing superfluous in this regard. Everything is pretty cool and balanced. The 3 maximum scores are pretty obvious. As for Fruit Playground, it's much worse, and I give it a score of 1 out of 3. The sounds really leave a lot to be desired. They, as well as the objects themselves, sound like they are rubbery. The sounds don't match the character of the objects at all. The soundtrack, in fact, as such, is simply absent. I give it 1 point, and frankly speaking, I want to forget about the sounds in Fruit Playground like a terrible dream. But of course, leave your opinion in the comments. Atmosphere. Here again, Melon Playground takes the lead by a huge margin. 3 points! The atmosphere keeps you in suspense all the time. It's really scary in Melon Playground. There's a storyline in there which only adds to the atmosphere, making it even more exciting. Whereas Fruit Playground doesn't have all that. You're walking into an ordinary game where there's nothing particularly outstanding. Gray walls, standard content. You don't want to linger in such a game. The atmosphere here is definitely not impressive, so I give it a fair 1 point. But of course, leave your opinion in the comments. Variety of content. Here again, without any questions asked, Melon Playground gets its maximum score. A score of 3 is more than fair. Firstly, it is workshop. Secondly, constant support from the developers, various contests, and so on. The game has a huge number of interesting and cool items. And at the same time, they added us a storyline that is as exciting as possible. All this, of course, is missing in Fruit Playground. There are no interesting contests or that level of support from the developers. They just roll out the usual updates, and I'm not talking about workshop at all. In our workshop, people can actually make money. But overall, it's not all bad. Huge amount of items and various mechanisms in Fruit Playground at least somehow compensate for it, and it still gained 2 points. But Fruit Playground obviously doesn't reach Melon Playground. However, the game is constantly developing, and maybe someday it will catch up with our game. And now let's move on to the final results. Totals. So Melon Playground scored 21 out of a possible 24 points, which is really just a great score. Melon Playground is the king of its genre, and I think that's obvious. At the same time, Fruit Playground scored 13 points out of a possible 24, which is not so bad because I thought it would be much worse. The game is very decent, and in some aspects, such as optimization, it is even better than Melon Playground. But in direct comparison, it's still far away from the Mastodon, and it still has a lot of room for development and improvement. Feel free to leave your opinion in the comments, but this is the end of my video. Thanks for watching. Good luck to everyone. Bye. And remember, my friend, you were on Melonfonk channel. As always, see you the other day.